In three, two, one, you are live.
Hello, welcome to Arts and Antiques. I am Bridget Ginter, filling in for Elizabeth Stewart this afternoon. Today we welcome Stacy Audie Demongate, the executive director of the California Nature Art Museum, which formerly was the Wilding Museum. Today she's going to talk about their new exhibition, which is called Wild in California, in conjunction with the museum's 25th anniversary celebration. Welcome, Stacy. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me slash us on the program.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit more about this new exhibition, Wild in California, which is mainly, is it all works from the founder, Patty Jackman, or are there any other artists in this exhibit?
Yeah, this is a solo show for Patty Jackamain, our founder. She's been very prolific over her life and still doing artwork. And so this is going to be primarily mosaics with a sprinkling of some of her block prints, which she's also well known for. And I think at last count, we're at 73 pieces that we're in the middle of hanging as we're recording this. So it's a lot of work, and mosaics are ever so fun to hang as opposed to,
Right.
artwork that's more traditional with hangers and wires on the back. So we're, yeah, right in the middle of all that right now.
Cool. And I didn't realize because before this, was sort of doing some research, and I didn't realize that Patty Jackman also has works of art that are in, it said the Cottage Hospital,
Mhm.
both that Goleta Valley Cottage and the main cottage, and then also at the Botanical Gardens. So I think I've walked past a lot of her work without without necessarily even knowing that that was her. So that's really neat.
Yeah, and I have to give a plug also for she's done a really beautiful large mural at the Santa Barbara Maritime Museum inside. That's in
Okay.
kind of a children's area that's super fun, kind of an underwater mural. And then she also has some work at the North Campus open space that's part of UCSB. And she's some outdoor pieces there. So yeah, her work is in all kinds of places.
So this particular exhibition, Wild in California, uh, is, as I mentioned, in conjunction with the 25th anniversary of the museum. What sort of was the thought process of coming up with this concept of Wild in California for the this specific 25th anniversary event?
Yeah, well, of course, it made sense to us to have a show specifically with Patty since she is our founder, and we literally would not exist with all the hard work and passion she's poured into us as an institution. But of course, it's also a little bit building on our branding change that we initiated last year. So we did change our name from the Wildling Museum to California Nature Art Museum. And we really wanted to emphasize California since that is our focus area now. Of course, we do a lot that's very regional and very Santa Barbara region focused, but we embrace the whole state. And of course, there's a lot of through lines and commonalities throughout the whole state. So, knowing her work pretty well at this point, she focuses a lot on wildlife. So, we thought that her work could be staged in the gallery in such a way that it would help us tell the story of why California is so amazing in terms of the animals, wildlife that we have. And so that's what we're working on right now as we hang, so that there's groupings of her artwork that help tell the story of the incredible biodiversity we have in our state.
Okay. And for those people that have not seen the museum or been to the museum, can you tell us a little bit about the mission of the museum and sort of how it was conceived, and also a little bit about you mentioned the rebranding, how that came about as well.
Right. So Patty founded us along with her first board in 1997. We opened our doors in 2000 in Los Olivos, and we now are in Solvang, opened our doors in Solvang in 2013. We have 3 floors of exhibition space, a lot more than we used to have when we were in Los Olivos. And this exhibition is in our first floor gallery, our larger one, which we now call the Wildling Gallery. And her vision, original vision, is very close to what we're doing now. Originally, they were thinking nationally in scope, which is very ambitious for the size that we were. We were not founded with a collection. We didn't have some $1 million endowment that, we were sitting on at the time. But over the years, they started growing a small collection and did amazing shows. I would say we're at something like the 120th show, roughly. That's a lot of exhibitions for us to have put on. A lot of them with historic art, some with contemporary art, all kinds of mediums that we've used, and really all with that essential story of connecting people to nature with the knowledge that art can inspire people in a way that reading a scientific paper or a depressing headline about what's happening with nature doesn't do. But when you're looking at an incredible artwork of whether it's a historic painting or an underwater photograph, all of a sudden you're emotionally connected to what you're looking at in a way that you're not otherwise. And so we are kind of our tagline now is inspiring a love of nature. That's what we hope our exhibitions and then our programs also are doing. We really want people to connect and love nature because then they'll care about it. They'll care what happens, which affects
Right.
all of us.
Yeah, of course. And specifically, in terms of California nature, I presume
Yeah,
you're sort
right,
of
primarily, absolutely. Yeah.
primarily. So how exactly did you get involved with the museum, and how did you, I assume you formed a relationship with Patty as she's the founder. So how did that all come about?
Sure. I actually applied to the opening of the executive director position back in I probably applied in 2009 and went through that process. So I was hired in 2010. Penny Knowles, who did the first batch of years with Patty, was retiring, and Pat and ended up passing the torch on to me. So yeah, I've been there since 2010, so 15 plus years at this
Wow.
point. Yeah, and it's been exciting to help it grow along with our donors, our board, our volunteers. It's been quite a journey, for me personally and professionally that I've really enjoyed. And I just, nature needs attention and love, maybe even more than ever, as we've all become much more aware of the impacts of things like climate change. So it's really, I take a lot of pride and enjoyment out of being able to spend my working life helping to bring these stories to life in a creative and accessible way.
Right. Yeah, the whole relationship between art and nature and how artists are inspired by nature, but then also um, nature inspires people that maybe aren't necessarily artistic to become artistic.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The whole sort of communication with everyone is is I mean, what is so great about art is that this power to connect. So I'm curious how, when you started at the museum, you said back in 2009, 2010, how has its mission perhaps evolved, or how have you seen change within how the museum is connecting with the public,
Mhm.
and et cetera?
Sure. I guess I have to kind of go through the physical location change as part of that story. So as
Okay.
I said, we were founded and started actually behind Maddie's Tavern in the Keenan Hartley House, which some people might remember. Kind of a modest beginning in this cute little country house. And in wine country, but also I think Patty's and that board's vision at the time was that we were sort of an entryway to the forest, Los Padres Forest. Figueroa Mountain was nearby. Just cross the highway, drive a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're in national wildlands. Um, And then, but we needed to grow, and so then it became a second building in Los Olivos, which is where I started. And then we needed to grow and really find even more audience. And I think that's what was really driving us to move to Solvang. Los Olivos is a fantastic, beautiful community, very wine focused, which we're not wine focused as an institution. And we really wanted to increase our family visitation, and Solvang seemed like a great fit. Plus, we were able to find the amazing building that we're in now. And something like, I think we tripled our exhibition space through that move,
Wow.
which really helped us find a new audience. And our current space had a classroom. Like we were able to create a classroom, like a multi-purpose classroom, which then helped us uh, connect better to families because we want families, we want kids to want to come in to engage with the art. We want school groups to come in. And so we always have art activities out in that classroom now. It's the Goodall Education Center, Barbara and George Goodall Education Center, and it's so special to see a family sitting there doing some of the activities that we've set out, and they could be there for half an hour, sometimes even an hour, and there really isn't anything else like that, certainly in Solvang. So I think we're really a unique destination, also just from that standpoint.
Um, do you find that in terms of the people that visit the museum, I'm just curious because you made the comment about being in wine country. Do you find that some people kind of stumble upon it, or are they sort of purposely seeking the museum out?
It's honestly, it is a combo. We definitely in Solvang, there's a lot of tourists that go through Solvang. I mean,
Right.
through all the communities in the valley, but especially Solvang. And we definitely have people that just kind of like, oh, what are you? Um,
Right.
which actually was a little bit of the impetus behind the branding change. You mentioned that earlier. The name Wildling was confusing to a lot of people, we found, and they didn't necessarily connect that to what we actually are. So that's one of the reasons we ended up going through that branding change over the last couple of years, and just finding a name that we think it's very clear what we are and what they're going to find at the museum. So that's really was the impetus of all that. Besides kind of just narrowing our focus a little bit from kind of that very national perspective that we started with back in the day, and to realizing that California has quite enough to talk about. Really,
Right.
unless we are a huge state, we're a very biodiverse state. There's an incredible artistic heritage here in the state. I mean, it's already a really huge story just to focus on California.
So how is this exhibit set up Wild in California? How does it tell the story of California's biodiversity? Is there sort of a narrative to the gallery or how it's laid out, or
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely, for both. So we realized, and we already knew that California is a global biodiversity hotspot. It's technically a lot of California and a little bit of Oregon and a little bit into Baja. It's called the California Floristic Province, and there's something like 30 plus of these biodiversity hotspots. And they're called hotspots because of how much variation there is in the plant life, the ecosystems, the creatures that live there, but also because they have a lot of native endemic species, and many of them are probably endangered. Maybe some have even gone extinct. So we really wanted to, shine that light on using her artwork. So, as I said, excuse me, said earlier, we're kind of hanging her artwork so that we're focusing on different areas. So we have an underwater area where she has some just gorgeous mosaics of just a sampling, right, of some of the different species you might find in our coastal areas. She has a beautiful area of mountain life where, you've got a bighorn sheep at night. We have pikas, which are the cutest little rodents that live very high, like alpine high in the mountain areas. We've got Carrizo Plain. Like we love Carrizo Plain. It's kind of an unsung national monument that's in mostly in San Luis Obispo County. That's incredible. A lot of people know it when it's in bloom. Every now and then it has those super blooms, and
Right.
everybody's out there and can't wait to see it. But it's amazing all year round. And it's also one of the last biggest grasslands left in California. But even though it's the biggest last remaining, it's just a tiny percentage. It's something like 1 or 2% of what's left because of so much development that happens in California. So by, focusing on these different regions and areas and species, I think people will walk away with an understanding of how diverse California is and why it's so diverse. And it's the landscape that really is the reason for all of that. Whether, is an animal living on the top of a mountain in alpine country, or is it underwater on our coast, or is it out in Death Valley?
Right.
Um, we have all of that kind of diversity. It's amazing.
And how do you kind of toe the line between telling the story of the diversity, but also, I guess, warning people of the hazards of, like you said, overdevelopment, that kind of thing. Like how do you communicate the warning, the I don't quite know what the word I'm looking for, but the hazards of not potentially taking care of our wild California.
Yeah, I guess the artwork is joyful. So, people are going to read our panels or not read our panels. Some people are readers, some are not. So, it's really in the didactic informational panels that we have that we do touch on some of that. It's not we don't come down with a hammer on it
Mhm.
because we want people to fall in love with the creatures that live here in our state. And I think her artwork very, very much will be doing that for everybody. Plus, also just the amazing technique that she uses in her mosaics. I mean, we've already had some volunteers popping in to help or just seeing it, partly hung at this stage, and they're just literally like, they can't believe it. So I think there's that is going to be the primary thing that people see, remember, feel. But if they take a little time and read our panels, then they'll start to understand, like, oh, wow, this is why California is so diverse. Or they don't even realize, Solving gets tourists from all over different
Right,
places in California, all over the West and internationally. We have it all. So as we interpret a show and write things, we keep that in mind that people don't necessarily understand what California is at all. They just kind of know where they are right now. And that's
right,
not all we assume. And then we, weave in this other information, but we try to also kind of spread it out. So it's not, too overwhelming in any one area or any one panel.
right. I was looking at some of Patty's art, and I was just curious. I don't know. It's too bad she's not here to speak for herself, but mosaic is such a
Mm-hmm.
specific and intricate and interesting medium. Do you know how did she get involved in mosaic, or what the story is behind that?
Yeah, yeah, yes, definitely. And so she was very drawn to art very early in life, as well as being out in nature. So she herself embodies what she most loves and what she created with the museum. And in college, she knew she wanted to focus on art classes. I know she did a European trip, and as far as mosaics go, she couldn't believe, how long a lot of these mosaics last in different, places. You can go to these countries and there it is, and it's been there for 1,000 years, kind of thing, hundreds of
Right,
years. So I think she was really captured by that idea of an artwork form that had real lasting value. And I also know that she bought a lot of a special glass tile, smalty tile when she was in Europe that she's still using to this day in her work. Um, So, and she really likes to dive into things that require patience. Now, her other artwork form that she has done a lot of is woodblock prints, and we do have some of those also represented in the show, although it's definitely more mosaic than that. And that's another art form that, I mean, right? It
Right,
takes,
both very old forms of
yeah,
production and kind of almost medieval sort of, kind of
yeah.
the historical aspect of it. So is it sort of almost also about like the process of being involved within a historical practice that
I
is interesting to her as
I
well?
yeah, I think it might. She'd have to ask that
Yeah,
herself. I don't know if I can answer that, but I can answer that she loves that it takes so much patience.
right.
That is the thing with, both of those art forms are, there's certainly nothing I would in a million years have the patience to do. I mean, like with the mosaic glass, she is hand cutting each piece to fit. Right. So that's an incredible amount of work. And the same thing with woodcuts, right? She's hand carving all those. And then she's printing, and each color, right, is a different print. And you have to register it all so it all matches and it ends up okay. And you're not, an even centimeter off of what you've already printed.
Right.
It's incredible that she's got that kind of patience.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just thinking too with mosaic, there's also a lot of times sort of a relationship with architecture and the
Mhm.
environment.
Uh,
So I was wondering, is there any kind of maybe works that she's done where the environment is related specifically to the mosaic or
I have to think about that,
yeah,
for a minute. I mean, certainly she does do some landscapes that get translated into the mosaic. A lot of times, it's certainly what we have in the museum. It's primarily like the animal and maybe a
right,
hint of a landscape around it. She's done other kinds of installations. I know she did a church installation that I haven't personally seen. I think that was one of her early commissions was that. So she definitely, I know, is inspired by what is around in that context, wherever she's specifically putting a mosaic. I know that's part of her process.
um I was curious as well, um, in terms of the rest of the museum. So you're saying the first floor is
Mhm.
right now you're installing the new exhibit, but for those people that come to the museum, what other artists or what other mediums are you displaying, and what other stories are being told on
Yeah.
the second and third floor?
Yeah, yeah. So on the second floor, which we call the Valley Oak Gallery, first of all, there's a permanent wall mural done by John Iwerks, who's a local artist. He's part of the famous Oak Group. And we commissioned him to do a valley oak tree, a very specific, species of the wonderful oaks that we have around here. The beautiful old kind of gnarled branches. I mean, they're just iconic for our area. So that is always available. And it's been a great tool for us when we have school groups in, because he created a whole habitat within it with different creatures. So there's just tons to talk about our local habitats and ecosystems given that mural. But it's also a changing gallery space. So right now, also we're celebrating our 25th anniversary with a show from our selections from our permanent collection, and that was curated by two of our donors who've been on our board and been supporters for a long time. And it was something we did at an auction that they won, and so they got to go down into our collections and pick 25 pieces that they wanted to bring out to the public to kind of help tell the story of our permanent collection, but then, you know, share the artwork or the places that the artwork represents, which they did focus primarily on California and even regional artworks and what they selected. But it's incredibly diverse. We have everything from birds painted on cigar boxes in a just gorgeous way. And we have one of our newest acquisitions, which is a donation by donor Mel Sayoun, and that is a John Gamble painting that is just gorgeous and such a treat for us to have now in our own collection. He did a lot of beautiful landscapes. He loved doing the florals, the landscapes full of poppies and lupins, and this one overlooks Rincon Point. So
Okay.
to have it actually, also be a local scene is very special for us. So we have photography in that show as well. It's just a really nice, diverse show, and that'll be up through, I think it's late February, and then that's going to change. Yeah, and then the classroom. So on the third floor, the primary feature is the George and Barbara Goodall Education Center. So we have another mural up there. We have a nature journaling station. We have coloring sheets for little kids, and then we always have origami. And you'd be amazed at how many people love origami and love to sit there and do that. And like I said, we've had whole families there for an hour just testing their hand at doing, different forms in the origami. It's amazing.
Right. You mentioned families, and I'm just wondering, do you do outreach to perhaps some local schools? Is that a part of your program as well, sort of reaching out and promoting the importance of biodiversity and California's wildlife through art to children?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a huge staff, but we always love it when schools reach out to us, which is happening more and more. And our assistant director, Rachel Metz, is building a relationship for us with Solvang School and some of the teachers there. That seems to be expanding. We've had summer camps that come and visit us now on a regular basis. So we absolutely want to do, more and more as we can with schools. It's the younger generation that we really need to turn on to, right? This concerns that we have environmentally, but also just to the joys of being in nature. That alone, right? Being in nature is so satisfying. They call it vitamin N. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but
No, I haven't, but I love that.
yeah, yeah, and for nature, of course, but just this idea that kids need a lot of vitamin N. And, we all do. And I'd like to think of the museum as kind of an entry point. It is hard sometimes for people to go hiking and or much less camping, but they can easily pop by, see us, and maybe go, wow, I never thought about visiting Yosemite, which was the last show, that we had. And hopefully Yosemite's going to get even more visitors, which it may not need, but
Yeah.
that didn't know about it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're just going to take a short break, and we will be back with Stacy Otte Demongate, the executive director of the California Nature Art Museum.
In three, two, one, you are live.
Hello, welcome back to Arts and Antiques. I am Bridget Genter, again filling in for Elizabeth Stewart this afternoon. Today we are talking with Stacy Otte Demongate, the executive director of the California Nature Art Museum, which was formerly the Wilding Museum. We're talking a little bit about her new exhibition there, which is called Wild in California. This exhibition is in conjunction with the museum's 25th anniversary, and it also includes works of art by the museum founder, Hattie Jacquemin. And this exhibit is, sorry, and this exhibit is also features mosaics, block prints, and extraordinary the diversity of California's wildlife. Let's talk a little bit more. We talked a little bit about the museum in general, but I also wanted to talk about any other projects. I had this kind of thought as we were speaking about the relationship between the artist and nature, and if there's any ideas or thought to doing any kind of like earthworks that are connected with the museum. So any kind of like artist collaboration that is actually like physically in nature. And if that had ever come up with your board, or even artists that have come to the museum.
It's certainly something that I've had in my mind that would be so great to be able to do. And I think that's where with more resources and more people, it'd be more feasible to take something like that on. I would love to do something with the San Ynez Valley Botanic Garden, for instance, so that it's, in our neighboring community of Buellton.
Right.
And it's just really honestly a matter of hours of the day and just finding that right combination of people and resources to be able to make something like that happen because yeah, I think it would be amazing. I know when Patty founded us, having outdoor space was the original vision, which of
Mhm.
course would be fantastic if we did have that. The building that we have, we love, but all we have is asphalt and sidewalk, so it doesn't, really quite work in that way yet. But I have a feeling, when the timing is right, we will jump on something like that. That'd be great.
Um, I also wanted to ask if you are actively looking for new artists that are California artists that are telling the story of California, or how you go about acquiring works of art at the museum.
Yeah, and for the exhibition as well. So we do get approached, of course, by artists, whether local or beyond. And sometimes they really understand who we are and what our niche is, which is kind of narrow. So that's, just the first hurdle in terms of a conversation is just to make sure that they really do fit with our mission. But that the internet is also a huge boon for us in terms of finding people. Some of the exhibitions, we curate ourselves. Like for me, the climate change show we did a few years ago called Fire and Ice, and it was a combination of getting referrals from artists who knew of other artists,
Hmm.
and sometimes it was me finding someone, online and initiating a conversation that way, or finding another institution had done a show and maybe they had a nice representation on their website, and I was able to go, oh wow, something like that would be such a great fit for us. As far as growing the permanent collection, we don't actively make a huge effort in that department. We're not trying to have some huge art collection. I mean, there's a lot of cost and time involved as your collection grows, of course. We do have our own art storage space, and we do have some room still for sure, but we're not trying to like immediately beef it up and have some encyclopedic collection of nature art. We do a lot of loans for shows.
Right.
But it is nice when we do have pieces that we can bring up from storage and kind of place into certain shows as a nice addition. So it kind of takes all of that to either find artwork, or either for a show or for the collection.
Um, what do you think the most pressing issue is facing California artists nowadays?
Oh, that's interesting. I would think economically, there's always that concern about what's happening with the markets and people's pocketbooks. I mean, if they're trying to make money from their artwork, of course, that's going to be a huge factor. Um, and I guess from my perspective at the museum, sometimes we do events where we have artwork for sale, or there might be some artwork for sale in some shows. It's, not our primary purpose. And a lot of people have very full walls too. So I kind of understand it from their perspective of you only have so much wall space at the end of the day. But yeah, I would think the economy is probably kind of an ongoing concern. Oh, I'm thrilled that through the exhibitions, when we do have contemporary artists, we're able to, shine a light on them. So hopefully they do find new fans, new collectors as a result.
Um, I'm also kind of curious. You mentioned the exhibit on climate change. Are there any other exhibits coming up that you have in the pipeline that you're excited to share about or would like to give our audience a little sneak peek? of?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a historic artwork show coming up in the latter half of next year, and that's a private collection by David Parker, who we've worked with before. He provided the artworks for our Ray Strong show, which was very popular. And Ray Strong is a California painter, largely in our area, not entirely, who inspired, the artists that are part of the Oak Group. I mean, he was a co-founder of the Oak Group, and that group is all about preserving nature through their art and documenting nature through their art. So we're excited to work with David again. This time it's going to be much more focused on California deserts, especially
Oh,
like in the Coachella Valley. So we're really looking forward to that. It's been a little bit since we've, looked backwards in time and had a historic art show. Before that, we're working with a new group, Women Painters of the West, and that'll be a group show that will be juried. And we've asked them to think about the theme of endangered and threatened landscapes and creatures. Primarily California might, be a little broader than that, but yeah, we're excited about that too. Juried group shows like that are always exciting to see what's around. But
right.
the other thing I want to mention that's a new permanent thing that I neglected to earlier was that we have a Thomas Dambo troll. And Thomas Dambo is a Danish artist who has been building these sustainably built, recycled wooden trolls all over the world. And we have the first one for California that's permanent, and the first one he's ever done inside. So in our glass, it's kind of a glass tower, lots of windows. We have, she's sitting, but she's 13 feet high, and she's just totally filling that space with her whimsy. And she's just amazing. So everybody's enjoying coming out and visiting with her. Her name is Lulu Hugeli, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah, well, Danish. And she loves solving. She's lived here forever, and she can't get out of the tower anymore because she's just eaten a few too many pastries from the town.
Wow. I think I heard someone telling me about this, but was there one at the Botanical Garden too, temporarily for
Yeah,
a
I think
while?
they have some different. It's not Thomas Dambo, but they do have something
Okay.
kind of similar. Yeah, yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to take one more quick commercial break, and then we will be back with the executive director of California Nature Art Museum, Stacy Audie Demongate.
Very good. Three, two, one. You're live.
Hello, welcome back to Arts and Antiques. I am Bridget Ginter, filling in for Elizabeth Stewart this afternoon. We've been talking with Stacy Audie Demongate, who is the executive director of the California Nature Art Museum, which was formerly the Wilding Museum. She's talking about their new exhibition, Wild in California, which happens to be in conjunction with the museum's 25th anniversary. And this exhibit has works by the museum founder, Patty Jackaman, and which mainly includes mosaics and block prints that display the biodiversity of California. So we've just been talking a little bit about this exhibit, but also about the museum in general, its rebranding, its general mission in terms of bringing the love of nature to the public. We're sort of closing up, but I'm curious in general. I always like asking folks on the interview um, how you personally got interested in art and your relationship with how you fell into the art world. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about that, Stacy.
Sure. It's fun to think about. So, I had parents that took me to museums when I was a kid. And I loved I grew up in Missouri, and going to the St. Louis Art Museum was a thing we did pretty routinely. And I still remember some paintings. Don't ask me who the artists were, because that was a long time ago. But I just really like it was just, sometimes an artwork just speaks to you. and reaches you. And I dabble myself, and I am nothing but a dabbler. But even just dabbling, I think helps me have an appreciation for what masters can do that I cannot. So there's that. But I would say even more than the art world, I'm a museum person. Museum nerd is what I kind of call myself. So um, by so much exposure to museums as a kid, which is why I love it when kids do come to museums and ours. It just really fostered an appreciation for what museums can do, whatever their discipline. And I ended up on Catalina Island years ago after grad school, and that was more of a history museum. But we did more and more do some small art exhibitions that I love because there's a great plein air art tradition out on Catalina. I mean, it's gorgeous scenery.
Right.
And I think it just kind of primed me for where I am now. Plus, living on an island is all about being surrounded by nature and the whims of nature, whether there's
Yeah.
worms or what have you.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
yeah.
That's
So
fascinating. So you went from Missouri to living on Catalina Island.
yeah, I was there for
Wow.
18 years, and I loved that big ocean storms, and then the barge couldn't come, and we couldn't get milk for a few days. Like that never bothered me. It bothers a lot of people. I was one of the ones that like you just roll with it, and it was like the power of nature pounding your shores with their waves. But I had friends that worked for the conservancy and just helped me learn so much about nature, and islands are great little laboratories, little environments because they are isolated, where you really understand what happens when non-native things come to like an island and how that changes stuff. So I think it kind of primed me perfectly for the job I have today, which is for me this great blend of very much immersed in the natural world and learning about it, but through art, which I also very, very much appreciate.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's such a like you said, it totally primed you for where you are today, but what a journey from Missouri to Catalina and now here. Um what is the most important thing you've learned in your career so far working in the arts and how the arts relate to nature? What would you say?
Oh, that it's powerful, I think, really, just to have seen the power that art can have on someone. It may not be every single person's cup of tea. I've definitely learned that as well. But I would say the majority come through and they leave comments too, and they're just emotionally touched. Like I think I said that earlier, that there's something about art as this window into the natural world that is super powerful. And I'm so glad that, I get to and my whole team gets to work in a place where we're surrounded by nature through art, and we get to know artists who are so creative and sharing and passionate about what they do. It's really amazing.
Um, and I believe when can we go and see this new exhibit?
Yeah, so Wild in California opens to the public on Saturday, September 20th, and then it is there until, I believe, February 22nd. And you can find out all about it on our website, which is C-A-L, natureartmuseum.org. Really easy to find, along with the different kinds of programs that we have coming up, like our holiday marketplace, where we do have local artists and craftspeople there sharing their wares. Again, we love shining that spotlight on artists and craftspeople that are local and helping them as well. So lots of fun stuff coming up, and we just hope to see everybody listening at the museum at some point soon.
I love that. Well, this has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much, Stacy, for joining us here on the program. And for everyone listening, you can come see the new exhibition, Wild in California, which is in conjunction with the museum's 25th anniversary celebration coming up this month. So thank you so much, Stacy. It was really nice speaking with you and hearing about your story.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.